What would I have said to my younger self that could have perhaps prevented me from struggling with a 20-year porn addiction? That is a question that I've spent a large amount of time thinking about, processing, answering for myself over the last 5 years. And it was that question in and of itself that launched this YouTube channel back in 2020. At that point, I had been running the Superhuman Life podcast for about a year. And a lot of men were beginning to reach out, asking me for help. Frank, we love your vulnerability. Frank, we love the conversations that you're having on the Superhuman Life podcast. And what we've realized is you're speaking our story. You're speaking our journey. You see, our message resonated with so many men out there that the questions and the inquiries about, Frank, how do I do this in my life, began to flood my inbox. It was a small leap of faith in January of 2020 that started us down this path of launching and creating Rebuild Recovery. But by July of that year, I'd walked away from a very high profile career into marketing. We were scaling up and building this marketing agency because I felt deep in my heart, deep in my core, that my place at that time was supposed to be leading men. So in the summer of 2020, after a massive personal breakdown, I felt like I was restarting my life over. This was a year and a half after me being free. So by this point, I'd been 18 months free of pornography. And I woke up one day at the end of July with the next year of my life sitting in front of me. And I asked myself one question. What did younger Frank need to hear and know that could have prevented him from falling into the pit of a pornography addiction in the darkness for 20 years? And it was that question every day over the next 3 years that was answered. We went 3 years with releasing one video per day on our YouTube channel. We grew it from about 1,100 subscribers to roughly where it's at today, 12,000, coming up on 13,000 subscribers. 1 million plus views, answering one question, coming at it from different angles every single day. What did the younger Frank need to hear? Because what I knew is if I fell into this trap because the resources were not available, if the way that people had been talking about porn and pornography addiction had led me down the path of struggling with it for 20 years, then perhaps it was my responsibility to provide it to the younger versions of Frank coming up. We've reached millions of people with that message. It's grown into a coaching organization, the #1 organization for men that helps them rebuild their life after pornography addiction. It's launched a second podcast here with the Rebuilt Man, which for those of you that are new here, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, guys. We're talking about the story of just 4 years ago. And if you're on the audio side, guys, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review. But coaching, consultants, working with high achieving men all across the world, speaking on stages, partnering with nonprofits, all of that has come out of me answering one question every single day. Who did I need in my life to help prevent me from falling into the trap of pornography addiction? And what I'm going to share with you here today is how we've taken that question that I used to ask and answer every single day and integrate it into our recovery program. Because I do believe that for 5 years now, me thinking about and pondering and asking the question, who did I need in my life? What man could have helped prevent me? What conversations did I need to hear? It's helped develop me into becoming that man in my own life. So now when I'm struggling and dealing with life circumstances and situations that in the past would have made me feel the need to escape. I have what it takes to process these things with myself. But more importantly, it's positioned me at the beginning and the front of a movement that has helped thousands of men do the same in their life. So if it's been so instrumental in my journey, if it's been so instrumental in me staying free, then wouldn't the men in our program get the same benefits out of it? So in the week 3 curriculum for Reboot Your Life, which is our flagship program, we walk the men through an assignment, and I'm handing that assignment to you here today. Because for many of us, our struggle with pornography was something that began early on in life. And it was because that early exposure, when our brains were not developed to handle the stimulus combined with a lack of understanding, because nobody was having the necessary conversations with us, that we didn't know where to go. We didn't know where to turn when we saw something. So by taking ourselves through an assignment such as this, where we identify who it was we needed in our life at that first moment, we can heal any past trauma. We can heal any wounds from our childhood. But more importantly, we can begin to become that man in our own life. So there's 6 questions that you should ask yourself to get clear on the advice that your younger self needed. The first question is, what conversation did you need to have before you even saw porn? And for you fathers out there, for the men that are leading families in their own home and are struggling with this right now, this one is crucial. Because if you don't get this out of your life, it will be passed through to the next generation. So what conversation did you need to have before seeing porn? And then what conversation did you need to have after the first time you saw porn? So how could you have been set up for success prior to seeing it? And where could you have gone to process and talk about some of these things? Who was this individual? Who was this man that you needed to have this conversation with? Was he your father? Was he a bigger brother? Was he an uncle? Was he a coach? Was he a pastor? Who was he? And what character traits and values does this man possess that made him that right person? Why was he the individual that you needed versus somebody else? How would you have made you feel when you first admitted to seeing something that you knew you probably weren't supposed to? Would he have guilted you? Would he have shamed you? Would he have condemned you? Or would he have understood and empathized with you? Would he have provided a place where you could become vulnerable without judgment? And then the last one is, how would he have made you feel when you told him that you were addicted or truly struggling with this thing? Once again, would he have shamed you? Would he have guilted you? Would he have told you that you were less than because you couldn't control yourself? Or would he have understood? So what conversation did you need to have before? What conversation did you need to have after? Who was this conversation with and why? What traits and values made him that right person? And how would he have made you feel the first time you saw it? And how would he have made you feel when you went and told him that you were addicted? And like I said, if your pain and your struggle is rooted in emotional traumas or wounds from the past, this will allow you to go back there and speak to your younger self and begin the healing process. But more importantly, as you continue down this path of freedom and walk it out in your own life, you'll become the person that you need, and you'll become the person that other people need. And I can tell you, somebody that has been free of 5 years, the greatest joy and benefit that I get out of it is not what it's doing in my life, but what it allows me to do in other people's lives. So if you're pondering and thinking right now, I get this, Frank. I'm going to have this conversation with my younger self. But you know what? I've realized that I truly need somebody in my corner. 5 years ago, I took a leap of faith and started talking about my struggle. And it has resonated with tens of thousands of men across the world. And we have successfully led over 1,000 men from darkness to light, from struggles to freedom, from slaves to walking in peace. And I'd love to do the same for you. So I'm going to put down there in the description box below a link to our application page, www.rebuiltrecovery.com/apply. It's a simple process. Read the information on the page. If it resonates with you, click the consultation form, fill the short form out, answer a couple questions for us so we could pre-screen, pre-qualify you, but we'll jump on a call to make sure it's a good fit. We may not be right, and that's okay. You may not be right for us, and that's okay. But if you're resonating and you're hearing this right now, it won't hurt to ask. Rebuiltrecovery.com/apply. But the advice to your younger self is the advice that you probably need to hear today. God bless you guys. Coach Frank of the Rebuild Man. We love you, and we'll see you in the next one.